Happy Thanksgiving! We come to you today to talk about how to level up your health this holiday season.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, 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 level up.
Whew, that was fun.
We just burned 50 calories.
And we've got some heat behind us, so I don't know about you, Wendell.
It's hot.
Dr. John, I'm hot.
Level up, level up, level up, level up.
So happy Thanksgiving. We've got some fun props. We've got this amazing bottle of wine from Spain. I hope everybody's tuning in. If you want to grab your drink to join us for this amazing episode of Leveling Up Your Health. Wendell's going to talk about GI, a lot of gut health, just got back from the A4M conference and has a lot of new knowledge to share. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And we've got some exciting news and some exciting features at the end we'll talk about as well.
You know, we always talk about what we do here at Heritage. Obviously, we do a lot of lifestyle medicine. And what is lifestyle medicine? Between the both of us, we really talk about how you can reduce the stress in your life, how we talked in previous episodes about how you can get those positive interactions with others, it boosts up your good hormones, part of your lifestyle. We talk about a plant-rich and a diet. So, you know, I'm not a meat eater, but for those who eat meat, it's okay.
Yes, I do eat meat. I love my protein.
So plant-rich diet.
Yes.
Plant-based is awesome. Plant-rich is good too, because even a plant-based diet itself can have some GI implications. You know, increasing the fiber too much or too quickly, having too many of those cruciferous vegetables. In some folks, that's not a great thing. So, but again, plant-rich diet is great. Whatever works for you, because everyone's microbiome and everyone's body is so different. So we always talk about that as well. Lifestyle talks about physical activity. So, you know, lifestyle medicine, we really want people to get out there and exercise, whether it's a 15-minute walk, whether it's aggressively walking up the hill with your dog, whether it's doing some activity at Orange Theory Fitness, where you're doing row machines, or if you have a Peloton at home, just something to really get your body moving. Would you say getting your body moving is vital when it comes to hormones, SIRS, gut health?
Weight loss, movement's part of that pillar. We've talked about that before.
It's huge. It's huge. It's one of the foundational things for lifestyle medicine.
Yep.
So are there a couple of things you like to do in terms of like that quick burst of energy to kind of get things going, to reduce the inflammation of your body, get your gut health in check? One or two things you like to do exercise-wise?
I mean, I'm a cardiovascular hit girl, so I love to do that in a fasting state. So that's me. But definitely I try throughout a busy day at work when you're living in an acidotic environment to just take a few minutes to box breathe and blow off some of the acid CO2. So those are my go-tos. How about you?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely like to do a little bit of calisthenics in the morning. So, or either night before bed. If I feel like I can't get to the gym, I can't work out, I can't really get anything going, some push-ups, some sit-ups, maybe some box jumps, just something very simple.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of band work, just something to kind of get my body moving, right? That's super vital for inflammation, super vital for your gut health. Pivotal foundational aspect of lifestyle medicine, about changing your lifestyle in some way. Lastly, of course, we talk about mental health, getting your mental health prepared. I always tell our patients, say, it's going to rain, you know, it's going to pour, the thunderstorm is coming. How do we best prepare our mind? How do we best prepare our body for that rain that's coming, for the things that's going to come down on us? Some of those situations we just can't change. You know, can't change the job sometimes, can't change our family members, can't change that person in your life who's giving you a hard time, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your wife, your grandmother is sick. Like all these things are happening, you know, people are caring for loved ones right now who are sick or having a difficult time. What do you do? Well, it's preparing your mind for that, right? Some mindfulness activities, one or two mindful activities that you do to kind of get your mind right, because again, that reduces inflammation. If you have SIRS, it reduces the inflammation of your gut. All these things are connected, which we're going to talk about in a sec.
Yeah, I love just taking a few minutes to meditate. It's always very helpful to decompress a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. Meditation
and laughter. I just find laughter is
level up.
Level up. That's right. We laugh and level up at the same time, and we dance. There you go.
Yes, exactly.
So, there's that. Yes.
That's awesome.
So I am so excited to hear about A4M and the GI conference. It's been years since I did it, so I know as we have these episodes, and this is one reason all of our providers go to A4M conferences. It's something that we do once to twice a year, because the data and research is always changing in our health. So we're keeping up with it. So you probably have new information from when I did it, 3 to 4 years ago.
I do. Biggest takeaway. We can probably talk for 3 hours about what we learned. It's just so much brain overload. So I try to pick out like 2, maybe 3 topics at most to talk about for today, because it's just so much. And the biggest that comes down to is that gut permeability, right? Gut permeability is huge. Of course, it talks about, they talked a lot about gut permeability and how it's also called leaky gut. Some people like to use the word leaky gut, some people like to use the word intestinal permeability, but on its face, the biggest thing that it is, essentially the pores that keep your gut lining and everything together, sometimes those get weak, they leak. Leaking means they leak out these inflammation markers, leak out these toxins, all of which can lead to all sorts of problems. They talked a lot about how leaky gut or intestinal permeability can affect the brain as well, because it's a bidirectional thing where inflammation from the gut goes to the brain's on fire, it goes back to the gut. These signals go back and forth to each other to tell your gut and your immune system, your inflammation system what to do.
Yeah.
Beth will talk a lot about the inflammation system, how that makes a huge difference.
And it's very interesting when you look at the anatomy of why leaky gut and leaky brain are tied together, because the vagus nerve innervates every organ, intestinal mucosa from the brain to the gut. So they are very much entwined. ADD and anxiety that we think of as a psychiatric diagnosis often stem from gut permeability issues. And I am sure you would agree with me on this, and listeners out there, how often have you come to us, or how often are you told that IBS and IBD are a diagnosis, or constipation is normal, or having leaky bowel is just, it's normal for you? That's not normal. And that's how we excrete toxins and biotoxins and mold and bad hormones. And the more our GI system is getting clogged up, the hepatic portal gets clogged, the bile ducts get clogged, the liver's not functioning well, and then we see the sticky blood, right? So it is 70% of our immune system. It's so important, and so we talk about it all the time. But
100%.
But
huge.
but yes.
Huge. Right on. Oh my goodness, right on. Just listening, we're just exploding. Yeah, it's so right. And they talked a lot about how there's more innervation and more nerves that are in your gut than are in your spinal cord, right? And what happens if we're anxious, if we're not prepared for what might be coming for us? So again, it's going to rain, but we have to try to develop those tools to be able to prevent ourselves from getting soaked and getting wet. How do we do that? The meditation, the deep breathing techniques, that's vagal nerve work, which Beth just alluded to. Again, that vagal nerve controls so much of the innervation of your gut. Vagal nerve work is huge. Something as simple as deep breathing, a few times a day, take a couple of breaths. Something as like humming, singing, sleeping well, which is a whole nother thing, but we'll talk about that another time. All of these things affect
Get your sleep this holiday season to keep that cortisol in check.
Keep that cortisol in check.
That's right.
There's these dendritic cells they talked about, which these dendritic cells are awesome. They just kind of hang out in the gut area saying, is everything okay? Is everything not okay? If there is something that's not okay, what do I do with that signal? I send that signal somewhere else. So if they do find that there's some inflammation that's happening, they do find that the gut microbiome is abnormal in some way, there's an inflammation process that occurred secondary to eating something bad, or it could be something like not eating enough fiber, it could be eating things like fake sugars. Fructose is a huge problem, all the artificial colors that are in our foods. And Dr. Casey has a great book right now that talks about how the Kellogg's products, all of the cereals with the coloring, all of these things that we consume cause significant inflammation of our gut lining. So those dendritic cells say, hey, you just had that bowl of Fruit Loops. Awesome, great. Gut microbiome just wreaks havoc. Pores open up, inflammatory markers start, the inflammatory cascade goes, and it goes to our brain and says something's awry. Biggest part that people don't realize is that the serotonin, right? We give a lot of serotonin.
90% of the serotonin, right? Your happy hormone, is produced in your gut. Yeah.
That's here, right? Serotonin, melatonin. Serotonin is broken down to melatonin. So what happens with our patients? They can't sleep.
That's right.
Right? Because the melatonin production is being altered because of the poor gut. That's huge. So why do we give, Lexapro, Zoloft? We give these medicines to try to increase some of that serotonin going to the brain, but we're not really thinking about what's happening in the gut. the serotonin is not being made. The serotonin is not being converted to the melatonin, so we can't sleep. So this is pivotal and primary and a huge aspect of everything.
Yeah.
GABA. We talk about GABA,
Yep.
right? You give patients some GABA sometimes in some of your products here and there.
I don't use that as much, but I love to talk about progesterone and GABA. So
Yes,
women
progesterone
and
stimulates
men,
GABA.
men can benefit from progesterone as well. But yes,
Yes.
GABA is really important. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Beth alluded to how your hormones, progesterone, et cetera, are altered by your abnormal gut health. It's true because that GABA that's made down here goes to the brain to say, let's sleep a little bit better. Let's be able to weather the storm. It's going to rain. How do you weather that storm better? By having enough GABA around. How do you weather that storm, whether it's going to rain, when your mom is sick, you have to take care of her, etc. Getting the serotonin right in your gut, synapses are closed, and your brain has more of the serotonin to be able to function well. And some people end up coming off of their SSRIs because their gut health is fixed.
That's right.
Incredible.
Yep.
Incredible.
And just Wendell mentioned, or Dr. John mentioned.
Dr. John Wellness.
That's
Dr. John Wellness here. Dr. John Wellness, I
It
heard.
never gets
Come see us.
old. It never gets old. But just mention foods. Like, let's talk about that because I do think America is waking up. We've talked a lot in our episodes about our food sourcing. It's being brought up in the election. Casey Meat, like the brother-sister team. I even had a patient ask me about it the other day, who have testified in front of Congress. And so America is waking up on our food sourcing, correct? And so we've talked a lot about pesticides and glycophosphates, but to the point of, wheat causes a lot of inflammation. And when we mentioned sleep, when you do start that food detox program that we talk a lot about, where my go-to is always wheat, dairy, and added sugar. And when you're craving carbs and fats because you're exhausted and there's a lot of conversion, right? Like you're just in a hamster wheel and you will not sleep well because you're going to have insulin spikes all night. What you notice is when you really can intermittent fast a little bit, blow off, autophagy, bad cells, get those inflammatory foods out and really focus on protein and keto green, you feel so much better and sleep like a baby.
Yes.
So just it all ties into the importance of the gut health. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so people think simply, we'll talk about probiotics for a minute and why sometimes it's a win. A patient will come in and they have, some leaky gut syndrome or symptoms that you just start them on a good pharmaceutical, nutraceutical probiotic, add some fiber, get them off some food, and they come back in even 30 days and you've got some wins. And then other people have they're not any better. They're bloated or wake up thin. By the end of the day, you look like you're pregnant. You're bloated, you're gassy, you're trying to eat vegetables. The problem is we have this overgrowth, right? So if you have been eating a lot of carbs and fats or Diet Coke or Coca-Cola or sugar, fungal overgrowth happens, and it takes a lot of time. A lot of time to repair the gut microbiome and to have that patience. Sometimes it's up to 6 months, right, where you still need a good probiotic and some of the other treatments we'll talk about. But changing food, if you have gas-producing bacteria and you're eating more cruciferous vegetables, you'll feel worse. So it's working through the process. One size doesn't fit all, but I would say there's, it's just having the journey and understanding it's not always a quick fix, which, bleeds into, from what we talked about with leaky gut, into chronic inflammatory response syndrome. 24% of the population has SIRS right now, and this can present with autoimmune disease, can present with ADD, anxiety, chronic exhaustion, not sleeping. You were diagnosed with fibromyalgia, you're chronically congested, releasing histamine. It's all this cascade of diagnoses that are in this box of SIRS. And what happens with the chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and it could be from biotoxin exposure, it can be from mold exposure, chronic mold under your house or in your office. It can be from fungal overgrowth, yeast overgrowth. And so it can be a combination, like Wendell said. It can be the foods you're eating or the biotoxins in your house. So it's a process, though, of what happens. These biotoxins eat feed on the mucus. Our biofilm in our gut is made from mucus, just like in our nasal passages. And it's made up of all these really cool phospholipids. When you look at the cell and the short chains around, it's encoded with all these phospholipids, right?
Keep those junctions tight. Yeah.
And so when you get you get these molds or biotoxins that literally feed on that phospholipid membrane, we lose it. And guess what? The mucus layer of our biofilm is gone. So you can take the best probiotic in the world, and you can, but the problem is the good bacteria has no mucus to hang on to. So how we fix that, it is a process on fixing SIRS that can take months. We sometimes need to get savvy and use these bioseeding cleanses, because if the biotoxins are living in your mucous membrane, or C. diff or Staph aureus or fungus, and you haven't eradicated it with charcoal and some other cool things in a biosedin pathway, then you may get better and get worse all over again. So
right, 100%.
SIBO, and do you treat SIBO with rifaximin as well, or you?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, that's that was one of the things we're going to talk about as well. How what you're alluding to and talking a lot about right now is like shutting down and turning off that inflammatory process. If we slow down and stop the inflammatory process in some way, or the inflammatory markers aren't tampered down, because again, that's the dendritic cells are like, hey, is there inflammation here? Is there not? Is everything cool? Is it not? And when it's not, it turns on that cascade of inflammation and inflammation process in the cells. Those interleukin cells come in, TNF cells come in, right? Toll receptors, right? They all come in and they say something has to be done. So equating to the house fire started. We put out the fire, but the embers are still there.
That's a great way to look at it.
The chance of relighting is always there, right? So
Yep.
you have that patient, like you mentioned, you have them on an awesome probiotic, have them on awesome, symbiotic, which is the triple prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic. You're trying to clean up their health, clean up their gut, eating more fiber, but then they feel better for a month and then they come back again, because it could be some type of inflammation cascade that's occurring.
That's right.
Sometimes we don't know the exact answer, because there's so many things at play that's causing those cells to react all the time. So it's a working process to kind of figure out, is it the bioseedin, right? Is it the mucus layer that's disrupted? Is it the toll receptor cells and interleukin cells are still on fire because they still see that there's inflammation happening? Is there a microbiome upside down? So small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that's the name of it, SIBO. It's SIBO, and then there's small intestinal fungal overgrowth.
That's right, SIBO.
There's two, right? And SIBO comes into two categories. There's methane and there's hydrogen. Sometimes they're not treated the same. So yes, so hydrogen SIBO, which Beth is talking about, rifaximin, great medication, sometimes kind of expensive, and if you can't tolerate it, sometimes we end up switching to other things like Flagyl or Bactrim, or just something else that might work in the protocol, but rifaximin is used quite often because it really works well for that hydrogen SIBO. I've had people where I treated them for that hydrogen, well, sometimes that have methane and hydrogen both come up positive. So I say, all right, let's change your gut health. Let's reduce some of those fermented foods, right? So because when we eat a lot of fiber, it ferments. So we put them on the low FODMAP diet if they can tolerate it. Sometimes it's very restrictive, and some people sometimes not. So I say do more modified versions of it, anything to kind of get us through to the other side, right? Walk up to that mountain, take out your backpack, start climbing. Or you walk up to the mountain and say it's too high, walk away. We have to start climbing, so we climb by giving people these tools. The tools would be probiotics. The tools would be reducing the fermented foods, low FODMAP diet. The tools would be rifaximin and antibiotics sometimes. Sometimes not, because methane is the other SIBO that very difficult to treat sometimes. It's the archaea that's building up in the gut, and sometimes it doesn't respond very well to the rifaximin. So I end up using a different protocol, which if you have another hour, we can go through my other protocol. But the quickest thing I sometimes put people on is like oregano, sometimes neem. There's a product, I don't know if I can say the name of the product, but it's Metagenic's a great brand, we use a lot of. So Candibacter AR, Candibacter BR, if I can say that, they work really well in some of these individuals. Again, with the dietary changes they're doing, just anything that we can do to try to treat some of the methane SIBO, which methane SIBO is one of the highest reasons why people have IBS-C, which is the IBS constipation element.
Yes.
Put them on some things that are natural for the constipation, because constipation a lot of times, and the bloating, the gas, the inflammation process that's happening, all of that stuff can be equated to too much of those, again, leaky gut. So how do we treat the methane SIBO? How do we treat the constipation? By increasing the motility.
Yeah.
So we put them on some pro-motility agents. You mentioned like Parkinson's. We talked about offline before we started.
Yep.
Parkinson's, huge for constipation. MS patients, huge constipation.
I use a lot of fiber.
Fiber,
So right.
fiber.
So be very
release.
careful with,
Yes.
I don't know which fiber you use. I love the so you need a pure soluble and insoluble fiber. Now we're all about fiber from vegetables, right? But again, when folks have methane or gas producing bacteria, they're getting more bloated. But I'll sometimes use up to 40 grams a day
40 grams
of
a day,
that fiber. I don't know what you're using, but fiber is key to getting motility. Like we said, we want 1 to 2 bowel movements a day, and by doing that, you're excreting toxin.
Yes.
And also remember, with leaky gut, it's why we also talk a lot, and I think some of your products as well, amino acids, the 9 blend, which is where protein is helpful. Amino acids and omegas, lipids are institutional in repairing a leaky gut syndrome, believe it or not. Good fish oil, but protein and the 9 amino acids, all the ones that have L in front of them, help tighten those short junctions, because that's, again, we're trying to repair the phospholipid barrier. We're trying to strengthen, cut the short, Wendell mentioned cytokines and inflammatory markers that leak out. We're trying to tighten it up and repair it, and then get the bacteria overgrowth to be the hundreds of thousands of good bacteria with the gut microbiome that we need. So microgreens, broccoli, all those things, they're all good fiber too.
Absolutely. Even for estrogen, for bad estrogen, Broncho Protect, Meta I3C, DIM, all these things are like derivatives of basically broccoli. So, getting broccoli. But again, like you said, like broccoli in some people, they just feel like so bloated when they eat like broccoli, so it can make it very challenging in some individuals. So things that we use, like I use tell people do a lot of diaphragmatic breathing, because sometimes they feel that they're bloating is because they make extra gas. But in some of these folks, I do a KUB, which is an x-ray that we do in their abdomen, to actually see if they have like a huge amount of gas in there, or to see if they have a huge amount of poop in there.
Just stool burden.
Stool burden in there. And some people do have that. So we say, okay, let's put you on something, kind of get that stool out, reduce your gas. But some people just don't have a lot of gas, but they have the sensation that they do.
That's right.
So, because what happens is when when gut inflammation occurs, your diaphragm, instead of kind of moving the right direction, it pushes down. And when the diaphragm pushes down, people feel like they're pregnant. Like I'm 4 months pregnant, right? They feel that. But a lot of times it's not that they make extra gas, because a lot of people make the same amount of gas as others, but it's the sensation, because again, there's more nerve fibers in your gut than that's in your brain and your spinal cord.
That's right.
Right? So those nerve fibers are sensing it, so those nerve fibers are on fire. So they're really feeling spasming, and they're feeling the diaphragmatic pressure going down, and that causes them to feel that extra bloating in some people, not everyone.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the vagus nerve, right?
Yeah, the vagus nerve is a big one. Yeah.
It controls that.
Yep, that's
it
right.
Controls that.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. So all great tools on fixing all the different GI disorders. It's quite fascinating, the gut,
incredible.
right? I mean, Wendell, the whole conference, it was 3 days of just GI alone.
All day,
It's the biggest organ we have, technically, but just so much information.
We felt real regular after that conference, too. By the way.
Well, I heard they fed you. I heard they fed you a lot of protein, right? So they gave you a lot lot of good fiber at lunch and whatnot, which is always great at A4M.
I was like, Sammy, no. But
yes,
it's okay, Sam. I'm just.
Yes,
yes. It's omega-3. That's good.
Yes, and we have 2 of our good probiotics here. I don't know if you can reach the. So Ultra Flora is one we use quite a bit for Metagenics.
Yes.
And digestive enzymes can also be key in fixing that leaky gut or SIRS gut that we're working on. And then the other one's a new one. It's the Ultra Flora with Akkermansia. I've had a lot of patients that have loved it. The Akkermansia bacteria helps with weight loss, so it's a little bit more expensive, but it's a win-win. I've had folks that really do like it. And we've got a couple peptides on the counter here too, but VIP peptide, and I've got quite a few patients on VIP peptide, is kind of that final cascade with SIRS that we didn't talk about. So we talked about chronic inflammatory response syndrome, fixing the gut. We often have to start them on phospholipids, omegas, butyrate, and a Biocedin gut cleanse. In addition to multivitamin, high-dose vitamin D, we need to fix the hormone cascade. So again, a lot of in-depth work on all the different centers and the HPA axis on fixing it. But then we end with VIP peptide, which works on brain inflammation. It's a vasoactive peptide. It's amazing. It's a nasal spray. So yeah, it's one that has been a tremendous asset to our practice. We probably would agree on that. And but the peptides we have here, we've got our TB4 frag, the BPC peptide I use a lot in my gut health patients because the 157 regulators, it's like alphabet soup with these peptides. 157 regulators, you have a lot from the mouth to the rectum, and so there's a lot of good oral uptake. So it's a healing peptide, anti-inflammatory, and also helps fix the bloating in the cascade. KPV is peptide I have there, which is our Barbie doll peptide. So I have that beside my beauty line. I get that question a lot from my patients or my Botox patients. What do you use for hair? What do you use for skin? What I love and I use Collagenix, which is an amazing skin product for bone, hair, skin. This liposomal glutaril. This is the first of its kind liposomal. We've demoed it before where I'm going to spray it on your arm and then rub it together. And it smells a little bit like sulfur, but that goes away. And then I'm going to spray it on your other arm. There you go. And that's all you do each morning. It dries, it leaves, it's a little sticky, but then that goes away. But we give glutathione through infusions and injections. But if you understand what glutathione is, it's not just a huge antioxidant, it's a cell repair. We lose it as we age. So it also is helping fix the leaky gut and detox program that we're talking about with the sticky blood and the hepatic portal system inflammation. So it's not just an anti-aging property. It helps with muscle and tone and weight and antioxidant stress. So this is amazing. And then this, of course, is my favorite. SkinCeuticals was a company founded by Duke years and years ago. I love all SkinCeuticals, but this is the triple lipid cream that is one of my very favorites. So this is a great anti-aging, skin, hair, detox, all of it. And we've got peptides. We have a little adrenal support we brought out with Auxiliarin. That's helpful to fix your cortisol because, again, we're trying to keep stress low. You're getting ready to get into holiday parties. You got it. Maybe you're hosting for Thanksgiving.
It's gonna rain.
Yeah. What are you doing for Thanksgiving, by the way? We didn't even get
we're
there.
Just gonna be hanging out. So
you're all by yourself.
So what's up, Jalen? Jalen's home for the weekend
Jalen's
now.
home.
He's coming back again for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So excited. So happy.
Jalen's in New York, so he doesn't get home often.
Him coming home is just such a blessing. So
good.
Again, being around that family, gonna have a nice little family dinner.
Yes.
Lots of veggies.
Lots of veggies. We will
Lots of fiber.
We will be having turkey. Usually Wendell sends a text to our whole team, don't eat the turkey on Thanksgiving Day, but happy Thanksgiving.
And turkey's
like,
okay.
Are you American? I'm not sure. Right?
Turkey's okay. Turkey's okay.
Little turkey. Yeah. So
friends, family.
So you guys are going to have the family. Is your mom coming in?
She might be going to Georgia. I'm not sure. So we're still trying to decide. So we'll see if she comes. It'll be even a bonus.
I love
on
that.
The cake.
Yes.
Cherry on top. It'll be even better.
I love it.
And having that love, having the connections.
That's right. That's right.
Tenets of lifestyle medicine.
Family love. Yeah.
Family love. People together, socializing. Right.
Yes.
Maybe going to turkey trot, which we try to do every.
The turkey trot.
We try to do turkey trots every Thanksgiving. So if you want to come run a half marathon with us on Thanksgiving morning, we'll be here in Wake Forest.
Yes.
And we'll be ready for your food.
That's so funny. Do you have a glass of red wine after your turkey trot?
We do, wine, beer, a little IPA. Yes, you can drink alcohol.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's okay.
It can be on the extremes, right? Something like, I'm never going to eat or drink anything in my entire life. I'm just going to eat like a bowl of almonds and that's it.
Yes, we have to live.
That can probably cause some problems for you too, because you need some protein.
And wine can be very medicinal. I mean, when you look at the blue zones in Greece, grapes that are grown in good soil and have resveratrol, which is in my Recharge. Resveratrol is an antioxidant, and it also, resveratrol does amazing things. It's also great for anti-aging and skin, but and two, we mentioned laughter, and that releases oxytocin. But when you are drinking wine, it's often part of that culture. So I really try to shop wines from Europe. So this one I mentioned is from Spain. France has some great red wines. Italy. Versus a lot of the wines in California. It's not that I don't like them, but I'm just trying to get away from the pesticides and some of the rules in in America are just different than they are in Europe. So, and you can get very nice, affordable wines at Wegmans or Whole Foods or fresh, that are good and medicinal. So anyway, there's ways to be healthy and enjoy those moments because you have one life to live. And and that's what we're here to do, is to keep. It's a conversation I have every day, is you have this one life and we want to die painlessly and not be crippled with disease and enjoy it, right?
Yes.
Have a lot of good memories and have a good, strong brain. Parkinson's, MS, we mentioned and touched on, are often misdiagnosed because of the brain barrier, the gut-brain barrier, and SIRS. And so it's been a fascinating course learning about that and how to now help patients from a whole nother perspective that I wouldn't have known otherwise had it have not been for A4M. So I love that company.
Yeah, 100%. Because we talk about a lot before, and even now you're talking a lot about how that the brain, how the microbiome goes to the brain, about the degeneration in the brain, the neurodegeneration in the brain occurs so much, especially in perimenopausal women. SIRS, inflammation, leaky gut, mold intoxication, mold exposure, candida overgrowth, SIBO, all of these things, low hormone, not even the low hormones.
Yeah, the hormones.
And how they all play together.
That's right.
So, perimenopausal women that come to see us, we're like, hey, you might benefit from being on progesterone.
That's right.
Which might increase your GABA in your brain to protect you from that neurodegeneration that occurs. So the early onset of brain fog, it may not be innocuous. It may be something real to kind of think about. A lot of your other docs, other than the ones at Heritage, might tell you, oh, that's probably, you're too stressed, go exercise. We know it's something more.
Yes.
Is it SIRS?
Yes.
Is it gut imbalance?
Yes.
Is it gut permeability?
Yes.
Or you're too stressed, you have too much anxiety, go on vacation. But we really know that it could be so much more. It could be that dysmotility.
That's right.
Slow transit time, the constipation that they're having. And we didn't even talk about how it could be related to trauma.
That's right, trauma.
How SIRS causes
that's right. The brain trauma. That's exactly right. Even mild concussions, brain trauma, but sometimes even psychological trauma. And how this affects the brain, inflammation, but how that affects the gut. So we're pretty quick with even mild concussions, especially in girls, young girls, getting them in for rehab. Rehab for concussion rehab. Don't sit on that. But yeah, trauma is a big one. But VIP peptide is amazing, that vasoactive peptides for stroke, post-stroke trauma, PTSD trauma, actual trauma of the brain. I've got some military folks in my practice that have had trauma from Afghanistan and whatnot. So, it's just fascinating how the brain and the gut are really intertwined. So, but we also are going to offer, so we wanted to display some of our items that are our favorites. We have many, many more as
so much more. So much more.
But we're going to have a Black Friday special for a week. So get on social media. We're going to do a BOGO, so buy one, get one half off of all of our products. And buy one, get one for glutathione injections, lipo-B injections. As long as, IV, we're a little short on the IV bags because of, unfortunately, where the supplies was. But if that picks up, we'll do BOGO one, buy one, get one. We'll see how that looks. But
that'd be awesome. I do agree. I think that's great. So many products available at Heritage. If you haven't been to visit us, again, definitely, nonstop shop. I mean, so much to offer you, so much that we have available for you other than the traditional come in, get your prescription and go home. Again, we look into so much more, deep dive, what's happening in the gut, what's happening in the brain, what's happening in your life. Are you going through trauma? Is that causing you to get pelvic floor dysfunction? Do you need to see a pelvic floor therapist to relieve some of the constipation problems that you're having because of the previous past trauma you've had? Is it the SIRS that's causing you? Maybe you need the biocidin layer to be fixed in terms of mucus. All of these things are all connected. And a lot of times, again, you might go to your other folks and they say, well, let me just give you Lexapro and see me in 3 months, where there's so much more that can be done, right? Whether it's hormones, whether it's giving you a glutathione, whether it's this mitochondrial recharge, which you mentioned, which is amazing, with resveratrol, green tea extract. It has NAC in it. NAC converts to glutathione, which you need for antioxidant. So it has all these great properties to really do so much more in your system than just taking that one pill and see me in 3 months kind of thing. So there's so much more available. So if you ever come see us now. Right now. I know where you live.
Level up.
Level up.
Level up. Level up. Level up.
Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy.
Come see us, Dream Team.
up, level up.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in so much and following us on social media. Again, heritageucpc.com. Social media at heritageucpc. Of course, Dr. John Wellness. I'm at Heritage as well. And we're really trying to get you to come in to be able to make a big difference in your life and the life of your family. Ripple effect. Let's do it.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.